Has a film ever asked you to think about the ways in which it was created and how that affects your viewing experience? 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her is a 1967 French New Wave film directed by Jean-Luc Godard. The film is about a Parisian sex worker turned housewife, Juliette Jeanson, who lives in an apartment with her husband and 2 kids. As they struggle for money, Juliette's husband asks her to return to her sex work to try and provide a more steady income. The film comments on a variety of societal and political issues, including but not limited to the rise of industrial capitalism, consumerism, prostitution, the Vietnam War, and modernity. With this broad array of messages, the film connects many ideas together, and it loses its cohesiveness in the process, much like the thoughts of Godard and his characters. The film's editing is a commentary on film editing itself, as stated by Douglas Morey in his 2005 article titled The Noise of Thoughts, The Turbulent Sound Worlds of Jean-Luc Godard. Quote, Godard conceives cinema as a mode of thought, and as demonstrated in the film, thought is messy, noisy, dangerous business, end quote. 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her takes these cluttered thoughts, speeches, and ruminations about life in 1966 France and creates a film less about a story and more about exploring the medium of film itself. The film's editing calls attention to its existence as a medium that is inherently influenced by its very creation. The entire film is narrated by Godard himself, and unlike typical narration, he is whispering all of his lines, as if trying not to be heard by the characters on screen. The use of voiceover reinforces the connection between the director and the audience, separately from the characters. This contributes to the voyeuristic feeling of the film, which calls attention to the voyeuristic nature of film as a medium. The long shots and lack of eyeline matches from Juliette's perspective further solidify the message that the audience's perspective is not Juliette's, but instead the camera's. The opening scenes are quiet. They don't have lots of background noise or much happening on screen. But just as Godard finishes his narration, the film quickly cuts to loud construction sites. This is extremely jarring and forces the viewer's attention to the editing and provides a very sharp and quick emotional transition. Another way that Godard forces the audience to reckon with the fictional nature of the film is by introducing the actress who plays Juliette at the very beginning.
Elle, c'est Marina Vladi. Elle est actrice.
Before reintroducing her as her character.
Elle, c'est Juliette Janson. Elle habite ici.
This addresses the fact that Juliette is not a real person, but a fictional character. Doing so further pushes the audience out of escapism, as Godard does not allow them to lose focus of the reality of the film. Godard directly references the editing of the film in the scene at the garage, where he muses on what to show and the impact showing different images would have. Instead of showing Juliette, he shows leaves blowing in the wind.
Fallait-il parler de Juliette ou des feuillages, puisqu'il est impossible de toute façon de faire vraiment les deux ensemble. Disons que tous les deux tremblaient doucement en ce début de fin d'après-midi d'octobre.
As well as various other shots around the scene, including repeating shots of her car entering the garage area. This is Godard's way of pulling the viewer out of Juliette's world and back into their own. The jarring editing and long shots set a pace that varies wildly between slow and quick. We stay with shots for a long time, but once a shot is finished, there's no time given to continue thinking about it. Godard has moved on to his next thought. This forces the audience to further pay attention or be left in the dust, lost and confused. In a particular scene where Juliette and her friend have just been paid for a threesome by an American war photographer, she speaks into the camera about war, and her monologue is intercut with bloody images of Vietnamese soldiers in Time magazine. This clashing editing choice works together to contrast the graphic sex acts of a prostitute and the graphic violent acts of war committed by Americans in Vietnam. This forces the audience to consider what the film is conveying, and further forces them out of their comfort zone as viewers.
C'est une chose étrange qu'une personne qui se trouve en Europe le 17 août 66 puisse penser une autre qui se trouve en Asie.
These editing choices force the audience to engage in the film as more than passive viewers. Instead, they must engage with the film as a social and political commentary. Instead of being allowed to escape into Juliette's point of view as a typical narrative film would permit, they must recognize that the film is being shot from their perspective. As such, they are forced to think critically about the message of the film. As Douglas Morey puts it, quote, Godard rejects a cinema that is known in advance. instead obliging the spectator to pass through a necessary stage of discomfort and disorientation before proceeding to the construction of meaning." End quote. 2 or 3 Things I Know About Her marks a turning point in Godard's career, as he shifts away from the cohesive narratives like that of his most popular films and creates an experimental collage-like film that is a commentary on both film as a medium and broader societal issues. The editing assists in this goal by drawing attention to itself, forcing the audience to reckon with its role as a viewer and engage with the film on a deeper level.